Well, it's got everything to do with it. Because if we think what we're involved in with all this political hubba-dubba, we think this is it. If this planet starts to go through what I'm worried about becoming a serious case of the jitters, it's being caused by the fact that Wormwood, this huge planetary object, which is a dead brown dwarf star, it's about to disengage its electromagnetic connection and frustration to the sun. And when it does, I'm afraid it's going to send the sun a terrible type of electromagnetic type dimensional jolt, a shift. And whatever affects the sun, within minutes, sometimes seconds, well, not seconds, solar, a really big solar flare, wipe us out, take down the grid in about 20 minutes. Now, what I want to stress is, all of this is totally unpredictable. All I can talk about are the probabilities, or at best, the possibilities, or hopefully, what we can do, if anything, about it.
All right. Well, hold it there, Dr. Rand.
Okay. I got to figure out how to get into this, because the last thing I want to do is to be attacked by Her Excellency, the former Secretary of State. I didn't have to say it,
She's like Verizon. Her people are everywhere.
Yeah. But we got to understand that what is going to be is going to be. And I still say it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Now, troubles aren't over. Troubles aren't over. If we lose the Senate, for whatever reason, back to stalemate. Although, Pence, if it's 50-50, if they win a couple of seats and it's now,
Yeah, then Pence would break the odds.
The tie.
Yeah. But that works the other way, too.
He's strong enough not to be deterred, buffaloed, or threatened.
Right.
So I feel good with that.
So, okay. I mean, but it's all up in the air, is it not? I mean, it's not which way this country goes from here on out. It is so up in the air. I've never seen it like this before in all my life. And, I mean, I'm not an old guy, but old enough.
Yeah, old enough you should know better.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so here's what we got to do. I think our job is to wake people up, alert people, give them a friendly nudge in the right direction. I don't think we should preach to people, because some people like to be preached to, but most people don't.
Well, they do. However, if you hit their note, they like it.
Yeah. Or if you can approach it in a funny, humorous, entertaining way, which is what I like to do. I like to think that, you and I have a fun and entertaining. You never know what we don't plan any of it. We've never, ever planned our show. Never. Not once that I can remember.
No, I'm not I don't, never do I pre-interview and do all that stuff. Say, all right, what do you want to discuss tonight? It's just a couple quick emails. If not that, Autumn calls you usually.
Well, we need to have a subject, of course.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we know what subjects we're usually going to get into anyway. So we come into these. This is what I call, this is like a freestyle for talk radio. I mean, we just.
But what mystery paths we cross.
Yeah.
All right. Back to something serious here. Hillary is not going to relent. It's just going to get, the more she's attacked, the more she's going to attack.
Oh, I seen her head spinning in circles. It's like,
but that's okay, because the more she's on the attack, the lesser are her defenses. You do know that about warfare, right?
Oh yeah, and that's all she does. She's not giving out any plans or any of that. All she does is Donald, 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 Donald.
Right.
It's like, Jesus, give it up, lady, or whatever.
But I think everybody knows her plans.
Well, yeah. Oh, we know. She's going to say, the highest bidder. It'll be all right. Saudi Arabia going 26 million, 27 million, sold to the highest bidder. That's what will happen with her.
Well, rather than plunge into that at this point, I think what I'd like to do is just do a quick finish up on this whole Planet X thing.
Yes. Okay, so it does.
No, it's okay that we drift, because that keeps the light, the night in a light atmosphere, a lighter atmosphere, and we've got a chance to explore a lot of other points of conversation.
Right, but it does more damage going out than it does coming in. Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know that that's a fixed part of the equation.
Oh.
And I'll tell you why. It travels. It takes approximately 3,600 years, give or take 50 to 100 years, for it to complete its journey, leaving the Earth's the Earth's influence and the Sun's influence, as it returns back to the blue-black giant, which is the big daddy sun that controls our sun. See, everything has a control point, and what controls the big blue-black giant is what's believed to be the center part of the Milky Way galaxy, which they think is a giganticus, biggest in the world black hole. Now, all that doesn't need to be debated tonight. That's another whole night show. What's important is what is happening on or about the 18th of September, when I believe the influence of the baby sun wormwood leaves its electromagnetic influence. It's like you pull a plug out.
Oh, one of those deals, like a suction cup.
Yeah, it's like a suction cup type of event, because they've been battering at each other.
Was that what took Mars at? I mean, that would sound like Mars atmosphere.
No. Well, I don't want to get this too complicated.
Okay, don't then. All right, so go back to so it's on its way out, and
right. It already came into the sphere of influence of the sun. It's taken years for it to even get here and do that. Like I say, NASA discovered it in 1983, and then again announced its near arrival in '84. And then we haven't strangely we haven't heard too much about it, other than that they've discovered what they believe is to be the 9th planet, somewhere out there in the far reaches of our solar system.
Oh yes, but Dr. Rand, if you put Pluto back where it's supposed to be, it would then make it the 10th planet, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Yeah. Zachariah Sitchin's theory about the 12 planets would be almost complete.
I think so.
But what happened to Nibiru? Well, I believe that Nibiru, which may very well have had life on it of some sort, because according to the Bible, isn't that where the Nephilim were from?
Well, that's what I hear, anyways.
That's what I hear. Okay. So, if they were, in fact, and that the Nephilim are said to return here every time Planet X comes, then somehow or another, it would seem to me that they must be traveling under the influence of Planet X. Maybe Planet X is still strong enough of a burnt-out brown dwarf star to supplant enough heat, life, and energy to keep Nibiru alive.
And that could happen. According to NASA, they've said that it is possible for a planet to sustain life from, if they're closer to that star,
Well, it's a spent brown dwarf, so it's still it still has a fusion process going on.
Right.
That's why it's a brown-red dwarf.
So the heater's still on.
Yeah, the heater's on, but it's not fusion.
Okay.
All right. Now, once this object disengages from its influence on the sun, what I'm worried about, on or about that date, is when the sun could belch or give a hissy fit or cause some kind of a aberration in its normal functioning process, that things go a little wacky here on Earth, and we begin the process of shaking it loose, because it's been gearing itself up now. See, the one piece I don't have, and when I tell you I don't have it, because I don't have it.
Anunnaki and Watchers, same. Do you consider them to be the same?
Yes.
Okay. Just clearing that up for those who are listening.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's another show, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Okay. Now, if the Earth's current trend toward an escalation in earthquakes continues, it's only logical that at some point the entire planet could start shaking. It's shaking now. And it's shaking all over the place. The hottest bed of activity is what's known as the Ring of Fire.
Could we wind up going into a wobble because of it, or what?
No.
No?
Well, wait. How? Anything can happen. I can't say no. If the Earth took a violent jolt from the sun, it could certainly affect its rotation. It could affect its direction. It could affect its electromagnetic properties.
Well, I mean, from the global,
magnetic poles could shift.
If we had a global earthquake, that might do it, because they say that these earthquakes, they affect the tilt just a little bit. Some of these bigger ones.
Yes.
Very little.
It's a known fact that the 9.3 quake that struck Indonesia in 2004, the big one.
Yeah.
That the Earth's rotation hesitated for a quarter of a second.
That's substantial. I mean, imagine...
Can you imagine slowing down a mass, something the size of the Earth? Do you realize that we're spinning through Earth at 18.5 miles per second? I'll say it again. The Earth is flying through space as part of her program with the Sun, and our entire solar system is moving at around 18.5 miles per second. And we're traveling in a counterclockwise motion. Everything in the solar system, including the Earth, everything rotates in a counterclockwise motion, as does everything in the Milky Way galaxy, as well as the galaxy itself, as well as all of the other galaxies, and all of the other galaxies and star fields. Everything rotates in a counterclockwise motion, and no one has ever been able to explain that.
Well,
I can't. Okay.
A lot of things we can't
but it's
explain.
a fact. All right?
Right.
Now, if what happened in Italy is a portent of what we should be or could be expecting, we could be in for a really rough fall, unassuming that there will be no problems with hurricanes. This disturbance that is now formulating in the southern Caribbean, all of its potential computer analysis trails takes it right into Miami, right smack into Miami. Of course, that could change, but what hits Miami, but what hits Miami hits the entire Keys and the entire southeast coast, because Miami's right at the bottom. You see.
Right, and if it does take a turn and hit anywhere else, especially Louisiana, they can't handle anymore.
Oh, my God. God forbid they should have any more problems.
Yeah, but it's possible.
Including New Orleans.
Well, yeah. So anywhere. I mean, I thought I was inland enough. I'm thinking, I'm pretty safe. A couple hours from the ocean. We flooded pretty good here. So,
okay.
Anyhow.
All right. So, one of the key things we've talked about tonight is preparation. I can't tell you enough. Just think about it. What have you got to lose? Where have you heard that before?
Yeah, I heard that a couple times even today. What do you got to lose? It's true.
Yeah, what have you got to lose from listening to what we're saying tonight? You have everything to gain and absolutely nothing to lose. You need to have a game plan. I don't care where you are. Kokomo, Indiana got ripped apart by a tornado.
Oh,
by the way, that diner that disappeared, I ate at that diner a year ago.
And thankfully, our surfer, who moderates our chat room, who is one of the moderators of our chat room, thankfully he's okay. And we were worried about him for a little bit there, and Ira too. With these storms going through, it's pretty mad. I was watching on the Weather Channel, and it just looked like a wall of kick your ass.
We got drenched here this afternoon. I got stuck in my car for a half hour. It came down so hard, I could hardly open the door. I mean, I sat in the parking lot for at least 25, 30 minutes, and it just pounded. And then all of a sudden, as quickly as it started, it ended. Boom.
Oh, I've been in storms where it's pulled doors right out of my hand. I mean, and you got to give everything you got to shut the damn door. I've been in those.
Yep. So it's not so much where, it's when. You have to think of it that way. There has not been any part of the country that has escaped any kind of natural disaster in the last 5 years. The entire country has been plagued, from north to south, east to west, middle to center. It never ends. So you see this whole concept of global warming. Now, there is no question that the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans are warming, and that is because there are 100,000 or more small, what they call seafloor surface volcanoes that have been erupting for the last 50, 60 years along the Ring of Fire. And every time one of these little volcanoes goes off, it sends up all the gases and everything. Now, just the heat that builds up in these undersea volcanoes, because they spew their lava, it just comes right out and it goes onto the ocean floor. That's how you build islands. Have you ever wondered how an island gets built? Well, that's how an island gets built. There's this little volcano below it, below the surface. It could be thousands of feet below the surface, and over 100 years of the volcano spewing, you have islands like Hawaii. Of course, those are many thousands of years old. But how do you think the islands of Hawaii are formed?
Well, hey, Dr.
They're all volcanic, and they're absolutely magnificent.
Somebody asked if it's not natural occurrence and just slightly influenced by human beings, and I have a feeling that's kind of a little bit of sarcasm in that, but not for certain.
Yeah. Of course, we've done damage to the planet. Any idiot would understand that. That's how we've decimated Africa's wildlife. And the almost near extinction of whales. I can go on and on and on. We are a very dumb, stupid, selfish, egotistical, conflict-driven society. The entire globe is the same. Everybody's guilty. There are very few good guy entities left.
I recycle. So, and anyways, go ahead.
Well, at least you're trying to do something.
Well, yeah, at least. I mean, but I like you were just saying, the volcanoes in the ocean. I mean, that's giving off a lot more than
they give up more heat under the sea. This, what do you think, brings about El Nino and El Nina? It's partly tied to the volcanic action taking place that brings these warm currents into being. I mean, all they have to do is do the research and think and talk about it. Now, it's much more complex than this simple conversation. But you get the gist, don't you?
I do.
Okay. Oh. The ocean, the currents that constitute the various oceans have been that way for eons and eons of time, such as the Gulf Stream. Now, if any of that, in fact, that was part of the story of the day after tomorrow.
And Dr. Rand, real quick, so the moon is just in the right place to keep the Earth at just the right tilt. Is that right?
It's a governor.
It is.
It's a governor. The Earth was created for many. I mean, the Earth.
The moon.
The moon was created for several major functions. One of them was to act as a rudder and as a governor for the operation of planet Earth.
I was going to say, it's, the more I look at it, it's just amazing how there it is, and the Earth is just at the right tilt for it. Now, without that moon, it wouldn't be, right? We wouldn't get the seasons and all that stuff we get now.
That's part of a very difficult, yes. But the equation's much more complex.
I'm sure it is, but all in all, it wouldn't be good for us if we didn't
But stop
have
and think
the moon.
about this. Who in the hell designed this planet?
Who in the hell designed it all?
Who in the hell had a computer system that generated what took billions of years to create? Who was pushing the right buttons? Was there someone guiding this? Or did it all happen just by accident? You see, you got to be real careful about this God business. You got to be really, really, really discretionary, and you have to be really, really careful what you think and say. Because not only can it offend someone, but you may offend God.
Well, then maybe he'll finally get a hold of me and we can have a conversation, right?
Well, be careful what you wish for.
Oh, I'd love to talk to him. I don't
Well,
want to
you know,
go to his
actually,
door, but,
Well,
he can
I'll
come to
give you
mine.
something else to think about. Strange you brought that up. Have you ever tried to figure out what prayer actually is? It's really very simple.
It's kind of like magic, like a spell or something. I don't know. It works. I don't know.
Prayer is when you put your best mental energies into composing a plea for mercy,
Yeah, it's an energy.
or give me something.
Yeah, it's definitely an energy. I'll go. Yeah.
Okay. Now here's the thing. How do you think that you communicate with God? What is the mechanism? You think something, you say something, you chant something, you pray in unison with 1,000 voices doing the Hail Mary. Actually, it's very simple.
Your heart.
It's what the ETs call telementric communication. It's mental telepathy to the Godhead. That's how simple prayer is.
Okay, but he doesn't have a...
The Godhead is the receiver. All you have to do is generate the power of the thought of prayer, and the mental telepathy aspect takes over. It's just that simple. At least that's what my ET people tell me. It's no more... We always try to complicate things. It's this whole thing of the cosmic energy that exists in everywhere in space. Space is loaded with energy, all kinds of energy. You just have to figure out which kind of energy your technology allows you to harness. Travel on the ley lines. The energy is universal. Mm-hmm. Every star contributes to it. It's a marvelous system.
And so then God, what all this would be, and so I don't know. When people talk about God, they talk about, well, he sent his son and he did all these things, and I'm like, okay, is God an energy or is God a man? These are complicated things which we need a full show to really get into.
Well, put it this way. I've asked them about this. They call it the omni-universal Godhead power. The omni-universal Godhead power.
And yet I still don't understand it.
Or, to you and I, God. Now, we have to be real careful, like I say, because you can't trample on any given religion, because every religion has its own tenet of what they believe the truth to be.
Well, and that's just it. They're on beliefs, and we're trying to find out facts. So I think that we can work together and maybe come to an answer. So they should have nothing to be mad about. But go ahead.
No. But the interesting thing is, they're finding out now that there are more and more things that prove that there was very, very possibly, very definitely a Christ-like figure called Jesus that inhabited the earth and that went through these trials and tribulations. The key question is, why would he go through all that? For us?
Yeah,
we've turned out to be pretty much of a disappointment, all of us. If you lump us all together as a planet, I mean, we're in pretty bad shape right now.
Well, I also look at it this way. Maybe some of this stuff is here. Like, you might walk into a wooded area, and to most of us it's a wooded area. But, maybe there's a few old log cabins. So we go, instead of creating those log cabins, we fix them up to our liking, maybe.
Sure.
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 Maybe this stuff was here, and maybe there's gods for all kinds of guys. I mean, if you sent me back 2,000 years with a little bit of technology, I promise you I could convince the people of then that I have been sent here by God. I promise you I could do it.
Let me share with you
but
guys.
I do believe in a God energy, just for the record. I think that everything is within that energy. But that's just me. But go ahead.
I want to take you on a quick little trip back into time. I had the pleasure of knowing and meeting George Van Tassel, the guy who ran the Integratron. And there's a place out in Landers, California called Giant Rock. It's the largest freestanding boulder in the world. Nobody knows where it came from or how it got there. It weighs something like 60,000 tons, okay? Now, there's no machine in the world that can pick up a 60,000-ton boulder and move it. Follow me?
I do follow you.
And there's no mountains around there big enough to produce that kind of a boulder.
And they try to tell us they roll them on logs.
Yeah, right on.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, this thing is like 3 stories high. This rock, 3 stories high. Okay. Anyway. There used to be a space that had been carved out underneath this giant rock. It was called Giant Rock by the Indians. It goes all the way back to the 1200s with the Indians. It used to be a sacred site for Indian rituals every 3 years. But another story. An old guy in 1943 got possession of the land from the BLM, and it took him 3 years, but he excavated underneath this big rock, and it was big enough that the room could hold about 15 people. It's standing. It was deep enough. You went down underneath the rock. There was an incline. You walked on down. You kind of bent when you went in. You had to bend a little bit, to get in, and then it got deeper and deeper, and the roof was probably around a foot above your head for this entire rock. Anyway. I got the pleasure of going in there and having a meeting with George Van Tassel, and he calls them his little people.
His little people.
And of course, on the way, we had to drive out to the rock from where the Integratron site is, and he's playing games with me. He said, "Do you believe in fairy people?" And, I kind of giggled. I said, yeah, sure, why not?
Well, that's going to be offensive nowadays. You say fairy people. Obama will come
Well, you and I know what we're talking about.
I know. I'm just playing. Go ahead.
I know. But then all the trolls will come out.
Go ahead.
Trolls, relax. You guys relax. Just enjoy the story. So I said, sure, why not? There's Irish fairies, there's them, and then the Danish fairies and all that. He said, Giant Rock's a special place. He said the Indians hired the little people to guard this giant rock when they weren't here. Now, isn't that a beautiful story? The Indians would strike a deal with the little people who inhabited that land and lived under the rock to protect it for the Indians during the 3 years between their conclaves. So that's the background, right? So he tells me this story, and of course I'm, I'm dead serious with him, but I'm saying to myself, fairy people, little people, okay, So we go down there, and he has what looks like breadcrumbs in a container, like breadcrumbs, fresh baked breadcrumbs. He has this whole container. And that was his gift to them. It was their manna that he would bring them from time to time.
See, now I would have liked if he had one of them in the jar.
So, Michael.
Well, get one that's already, deceased.
Michael, you take that back.
All right, I take it back.
You take that back. That was not nice.
Okay.
All right.
Well, you poke holes in it. You want them to.
All right. So there's like little seats. This place is unbelievable. There are like little seats that were carved out from the rock that were like seats. They were like benches. It was unbelievable. Perfect for sitting in. So we're sitting there, and he's still talking to me about things. And he looks at me and he said, "Now it's time to be real quiet." He said, "They're ready to come out." And I said, "They are?" Yeah. I said, "Okay." They're ready. I said, "What should I expect?" He said, "Not much." He said, "You'll just suddenly see them." And he said, "They'll want to know who you are and why you're here." He said, "But they're very friendly. They won't hurt you at all." He said, "They're very tiny." He said, "Whatever you do, don't try to touch one of them." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because they bite." And I thought, "Oh, come on. This is a great story. I mean, they bite." Well, apparently, it's not a bite. It's an electrical jolt. If you touch them or try to pick them up, they can discharge an electrical jolt that you will not want to go after a second time.
Like an electrical eel.
Yes. Now, there's the Star Trek story for you. Okay. So I said, okay. Okay, don't touch. Okay, right? So he takes the box. It was like a shoebox. It might have been like a shoebox, like when you go to the store and buy a pair of shoes. And it was like 3/4 filled with fresh baked breadcrumbs that his wife Doris had prepared. He takes it out and he puts it like 2 feet from us on the floor of the underneath the rocks, like a cave. And he said, "Now watch." And I'm watching and watching and watching, and all of a sudden, 1 second they weren't there, and another second they were there. That's all I can tell you. Nobody walked into the scene like in a movie, no doors opened, and they poured out into the rock. No. They just appeared like that.
And what'd they look like?
Little people.
Little people with wings?
They were dressed. They were like little bitty people.
Did they have wings or did they just...
No! They looked just like little bitty people. Now, I couldn't hear what they were talking about, but he did. Somehow or another, all I thought I heard was just some really, really high-pitched sounds of some sort. It actually was their voices, but he was tuned into it. Anyway, he proceeded, and I heard everything he said to them. He said that I was his special guest visitor, and that I understood they call space people sky people. They call them sky people.
They don't call them God.
No.
Okay.
No, none of them call ETs gods. None of them. I mean, none of these characters that I've met. I have to tell you the one about when I squared off with the 18-foot hammerhead off of Bimini Island. I'll have to tell you that story next time I'm on.
Okay.
I had a conversation snorkeling face down in the water with an 18-foot hammerhead shark that was at the surface. And he and I carried on this conversation for at least 4, 5, 6 minutes. Clear, just like I'm speaking to you, only I didn't hear a voice. I heard the thought. And the thought was translated into my mind.
So you had a conversation with a shark, telepathy.
An 18-foot hammerhead shark that could have taken me apart any time it wanted to. But that was not the purpose of the meeting.
Can I ask
That's
what
another
you guys...
story. and that's going to be in the memoir. This is going to be a great memoir.
Well, it sounds like it now. I mean,
right.
I'm anxious to know what the conversation.
So we got to go. We got to finish up about the little people.
Right.
Where are we on the clock? How are we doing?
We've got probably about another about 7 minutes. But you know what? If we go a few minutes over, so be it. Go ahead.
All right. Well, let's get to the core thing here. So suddenly I see them. Okay, exactly how big were they? That's pretty hard. That's pretty hard one to figure. I would say right now I have a pencil in my hand. I would say they were probably 2 inches. 2 inches tall.
Ooh, those are little people.
But perfectly proportioned, perfectly dressed, little bitty miniature people. Now, what did they look like? They pretty much look like a mix of Eurasian, Indian, and they were definitely light brown skin, not African American.
They might have been little Jesuses.
Might have been.
You never know.
And they were male and female. I didn't see any children. The children just weren't part of this visit. And they would come to warn him about things that would happen out there. Somehow or another, they used to get the information to give to him about how the government was trying to shut him down and take the Integratron away from him. Now, how they got that information, he said that the sky people would come and talk to them. And that the sky people became their guardians when they're supposed to look after Giant Rock in between. And these little people, they live forever. They're spiritual, electrical, magnetic beings.
Well, so do they come from another dimension? Is that?
Don't know.
Don't know. They don't tell you that, huh?
I never asked him. He never told me.
Oh,
so
they
right. Asked him all about me. And when they found out I was in the music business, the only time I really felt something, and this is very strange, somehow or another, I heard some of their music in my mind, and it was beautiful. Not that they were producing it. They infused some kind of thought substance. I heard their music. It was like nothing I ever heard before, but it was beautiful. It was like angelic type music. Mm-hmm. And it was only for maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds.
So they were like the Chipmunks. I'm just being funny here,
yeah.
But really, I mean, they were musical and they were little and
yeah,
amazing.
Full mental capacities. So
did they fly or drive or any of that stuff?
No. They moved around just like they were walking. No, they didn't go running around. How many there were there? I would say there might have been as many as 20 to 25, and they were mixed male and female, and they were all looked the same age. There was nobody young, there was nobody old, there was nobody. They all were like in perfect physical condition. Now that doesn't mean that there weren't somewhere that weren't perfect. I can only tell you what I saw and what I witnessed. Anyway, they were very grateful. We were supposed to leave the box of the bread, which we did. Can you imagine what kind of food treat that would be for them? Anyway,
yeah.
I didn't mean to digress about the food. So we left the box, and they said something to him. I had asked George if he could help me find. As a kid, I always wanted to have a meteorite. I was into space and telescopes as a kid, Chicago Planetarium and all that stuff, right? So I think George asked them about that. And much to my pleasant surprise, when I left there to go home, a week later, I had in my possession 3 of the most beautiful, beautiful meteorites you'd ever want to see. One of them is 26 pounds.
Wow. That's worth a lot of money, just so you know.
I know. I have to be careful.
So,
anyway,
they're
the ones who told him where to find him.
Well, damn, I
And
need
then he
some of
told me
these.
where to find it. We went out a couple days later and found them right where they said they'd be.
I need some
So,
of these fairies. I wish that these things would happen to me. I'm not saying because they don't, they're not true,
well,
but
I'm not the only one that has these kinds of experiences. There are many of us. See, you got to remember, I'm fortunate enough to be part of that weird little cadre of people who are supposed to have, who were supposed to have, and who have had, and who do have, as I have had, these excursions on the other side of reality with these so-called ETs. There are many of us, thousands of us. We're all over the place. We all have this little function. My function was to write books, learn about this stuff, talk with people like you on the radio. See, all that success I had as a record producer, that was all part of it. All of it. The films and the TV and the radio, and that's all part of it.
So Dr. Rand, we are getting really low on time here, but like I say, I could go a couple minutes over, and if you could just give us a teaser, what? Because there's many.
Well, here's what we need. Here's what we need to preview in the next.
The shark.
Let's just go 30 days. Listen, everything is so mixed up and volatile right now. I don't want to extend past 30 days. Okay.
All right, but I think what I'm talking about is the shark. What exactly?
Oh, you're talking about my friend the Hammerhead.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I was fortunate enough to be part of a undersea exploration team that was headed by J. Manson Valentine and famed author Charles Berlitz. They wrote a book together called The Bermuda Triangle. Remember we talked about that?
Oh, yeah.
You said you had that book or knew of it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I was fortunate enough, when I say hired, was nobody, I didn't ask for money and they never offered it. I was just thrilled to be part of it. I was hired to be part of an undersea exploration team that had been commissioned by the Bahamian government and the U.S. government to go search out a certain shipwreck site rumored through antiquity to be where many ships had been dashed upon a shoal. And through time, they estimated that there were as many as 10 to 12 ships that had been shipwrecked there, according to the Indians. You know, every island chain has its Indians. They had the Bahamas was infested with its own type of Indian culture. So they had their legends, right?
Yeah.
Well, off the northeast coast of the island of North Bimini, about 3.5 miles out, we had a marker buoy that we had put down. We had successfully found, and it was right where, like a half a mile from the edge of the trough of the Gulf Stream Trench. The Gulf Stream Trench is an empty space that looks like a huge walled-off area at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. It's about 1,300 to 1,400 feet deep. The Gulf Stream Trench is 1,400 feet deep, and it's about 45 to 50 miles wide. And there's nothing down there because this whole river of water is traveling through it as if... Have you ever been to L.A. and seen their drain systems?
I've never been to California.
Well, L.A. is marvelous. I lived there for a number of years. I absolutely fell in love with the city, and after the quake, I fell not in love with it. I had to leave. Their storm drains are like 100 feet across. They're 20 feet high, and it's one concrete river, and sometimes when the floods come, it's got 10 feet of water in it. Can you imagine the power of that water running through that wall system?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Okay. There's nothing that stands in its way. All right. So we're talking about the south side of the Gulf Stream Trench. It literally drops down 12 to 1,400 feet But when it comes to the when the edge of the trough comes to the surface, it's only about 13, 14 feet from the surface of the water. So where that side of the trough ends on the south side of the trench, south side. No, western side. Western side. It's only 13 feet of water. And what would happen during these hurricanes and tempests, ships would get caught out there in that area and were driven by the winds and the currents, and they were dashed up against this western side wall of the trench, and they would be smashed apart. And the currents would take them another half a mile, three-quarters of a mile to where the current fell apart, and the ships would literally fall on one another. So this place that I'm telling you about had at least, we only uncovered 6 or 7 layers. There had to be 8 more layers. Ship after ship after ship. And there would be a ship, and then there'd be, soil over it and seashells, a couple feet of sand, and then there'd be another one. And then there was another one. We actually found the shipwreck site that the Indians had been talking about for centuries. My job, so we were hired by the Bahamian government and the U.S. government to do careful research, grid it off, and just see what was there. So my job, and I worked 4 days a week. We worked Monday through Friday. My job was to be in the water, swimming the perimeter. The dive area was 75 yards, then 150, and then 75, and then 150. It was like a big rectangle.
Okay.
And I had a buoy at each corner.
Okay. And how did you and the shark?
Okay, well, I'm just happy as a clam, loving every minute. I mean, I'm seeing all these beautiful fish. I can see the divers below. My job was to warn of sharks. Here I go. My job was to warn of the sharks and anything that came down into the field where the divers were. In other words, I was their eyes and ears under the water, okay?
Okay.
All right, now, I'm happily swimming my parameter search, and I come around one corner, and I thought I heard a lot of commotion on the boat. So, I bring my head up enough out of the water, and I pull my mask off, and there's like my shipmates, they're all jumping. They're jumping up and down, and they're waving, and they're all pointing, and behind me, I don't know, maybe 20 yards, this big old hammerhead shark had been following me, just lazily following me as I swim. No mean intentions, no threatening, nothing. 20 yards behind me, he's swimming. If you've ever seen a hammerhead swim, they swim like a worm moves. Their whole bodies swim. Not just their tails. Their entire bodies swim. They go left and they go right. They propel themselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're all jumping up and down and shouting and screaming, "Shark, shark!" So I pivot and I turn around, and the moment I turned around, the shark stopped. Now here's the strange thing. Sharks, as you know, must keep moving in order to maintain their supply of oxygen. Their gills suck in the water, they discharge it, and they take off the oxygen. For some reason, this 18-foot hammerhead, its head rack was at least 6 to 8 feet across.
Jesus. And
they have eyes out at the end of their projection of their it's like a big bone structure. The eyes are that far out. The eyes aren't like right in front where the nose would be, okay? So anyway, he stops. Now, he's still thrashing in the water very slowly, like in slow motion, but he's not going anywhere. So what I figured he was doing is he was still doing that, and he was sucking water into his gills, right? Because, he's half submerged. Part of him's above the water, part of him's not. So I look at him, and of course, I'm in an instant state of panic. And as clear as a bell, this very deep, masculine type voice says, "You're safe." Just like that, "You're safe." Just like that, "You're safe." And I'm like, "Oh, okay," And so...
But could you trust him?
Well, I hadn't even gotten that far yet. So I decide, it's probably not a bad idea that while I'm sitting here doing nothing, why don't I kind of gingerly paddle out, on my way to the boat, What, you don't need to be sitting here thinking you're talking to a shark, a big one. By the way, hammerheads can be either very nice or very bad. That's how hammerheads are.
Yeah, kind of like people.
Yeah, like your friend Hill. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, a little sip of orange. I make a cocktail up of half grapefruit juice and half Tropicana orange juice. And it's a wonderful mixture together.
Well, if you enjoy it, then.
That's what I had with me just now. So, I start my little swim, and of course I've got him out the corner of my eye. I'm watching everything. So he starts on the move too. But he starts cutting across my quadrant as if, where do you think you're going? Right?
Yeah.
So I somehow got the message, where the hell you think you're going? So I stopped in the water and he stopped. So I thought to myself, I seem to be hearing his thoughts, or I think I'm hearing his thoughts, or I think something or someone is talking to me. So I said to myself, do you think he could figure out what I'm thinking about? And before Michael Vara, star of your show, before I could finish the thought, he said, "Of course." 2 words, "Of course." So, with that kind of communication available, where there is not a lot of words needed, communication became very easy. Do you understand?
I guess so.
And I was actually literally taking place in a mental telepathy conversation with a huge 18-foot hammerhead shark. And what he asked me was, "Why are you all here? This is a sacred site. Why are you here?" And I had no answer for him other than I said scientific inquiry. And I did not get an answer back to scientific inquiry.
He says,
other than he said, "You should go. The Bahamian authorities are on their way." And I like in my head said, "What?" And he said, "You should get going. The Bahamian authorities are on their way."
So this shark was looking out for you.
Yes, he was. That's the whole point.
I'll be damned.
He said, "Go. Go now. Go." Just simple conversation. And I remember looking back, and as I looked back, it kind of shimmied back and forth like bye-bye, and all of a sudden it just slowly turned, and it went out, and then it just went underneath, and I never saw it again. I made it back, and I told them what happened. The only guy that took me seriously was Jim Richardson's son, who was the captain of the boat. And he said, "Uh-oh." What he did was he forgot to sign the paperwork for the non-disclosure before we left Grand Bahama and sailed back. And sure enough, we had gotten all packed up, and we were probably already a mile or two away from the site when the Bahamian boat intercepted us. And had they caught us at the site, they could have taken his license and confiscated his boat.
Yeah, so thank God for this English-speaking hammerhead shark. So that's incredible.
And it's a true story.
And you know, I'm not doubting you. I'm sure that if you're on the right frequency,
now that doesn't mean I don't have a natural fear of sharks.
Yeah, see, you're better than me because you, I guess, or crazier. You hung around to talk with them. I wouldn't have.
I have to. The next time we get on, I'll tell you about the wall of barracuda that I encountered on an earlier date.
Oh, hell, you know,
telling me the same thing, that I shouldn't be there. That's another story that'll blow you away.
Dr. Rand, we got to do a show around Christmas time. We'll call it Story Time with Dr. Rand.
Love it.
And we'll get into all these stories because I love it too. I mean, I could go on 2 more hours.
Well, it's all going to be in the memoir.
All right. Well, good.
All right.
All right. All right.
All right. So are we pretty well at the end here?
We are at the end. So the floor is yours for a moment, Dr. Rand. What do you want to get out there?
Just that, with what we've got coming up between the election and this weather pattern, and I'm worried about the horizon earthquakes, I just want to ask everybody to just step back, take 1 hour a day out of your busy schedules, and I know it's not easy. Or maybe on the way home from work, do it. Just think about who you are, where you are, why you're at where you're at, and what would you do if a really bad emergency threw itself at you. And if you do that, you're going to get a little disturbed. And I want you to understand, because you suddenly realize you're no more prepared for what could be coming at you than a man on the moon. No one's prepared. I think I am, and I still think of things that I haven't prepared. So with what's coming up, just be aware and alert. Love your family. Love yourself. If you're not healthy and you're not wise and you're not on your feet and conscious, you want a bit of good to anyone, especially you're not good to yourself. All right? So until we meet next time, God bless. Have a great weekend coming up, and keep your eyes and ears open, because I think this political thing is going to get more and more dramatic and interesting as we go.
All right. Sounds good, Dr. Rand. Listen, thank you so much, and give a little attention to the kiddies who are rolling around during the show.
They're all asleep right now.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
All right. Good night, Dr. Rand. Bye-bye.